Hello and welcome to AccuFit Solutions presentation of our ASI 3D planning software. This brief presentation is created as a tutorial for increasing your planning scores and material utilization. AccuFit 3D planning and nesting software includes several new features that were specifically developed to improve the material utilization beyond the initial cutting planner may have selected, which resulted in a low score. This tutorial will demonstrate 10 AccuFit Solutions options a planner can use to achieve a better result when their first cutting plan is generating a low score, low yield, and high scrap and remnant exposure. Number 1, nesting partial and complete orders. Let's demonstrate how to use the settings in AccuFit to increase a poor scored plan. I'm going to plan job number 2010 for 30 pieces. It's a 6/4 titanium job, 30 pieces, 11 and a quarter by 11 and an eighth by 47.875. The highest score I could get from AccuFit based on the inventory is 46.4. That resulted in 3 pieces of plate being pulled from inventory and nested. And the result from this is the best result based on the inventory that we've got, is a score of 46.4, which results in 99 pounds of scrap in red and another 77.7 pounds of expected waste based on the size of these remnants that are left over. So that's a roughly 176.7 pounds at $20 a pound. That would be a $3,534 loss on material. So let's see if we can do it better than that using AccuFit. Let's go in and change the setting from no filler jobs, meaning we're just planning one job, to complete filler jobs. And in this case, if you change the setting, AccuFit will attempt to match up other orders to this material and see if we can get a better result. And sure enough, the score went up to 78.5. AccuFit pulled 3 different pieces of plate from inventory and is showing those to you here. And the result of this on a score is that there's no scrap, but there is 64 pounds of expected waste based on the remnants that are left over. These 2 remnants, you have 29 pounds and 34 pounds that are left from these 3 pieces of plate. That's this gray area. And that's roughly 112.7 pounds. The amount of expected waste is worth about $1,280. And so we just reduced from $3,534 loss to $1,280 loss. So that's a better result. And then there's still yet a better potential result if you click on partial filler jobs. And in this case, AccuFit will match up partial orders to this material and see if it can get an even higher score. And sure enough, if you're allowing partial orders, AccuFit can find a score of 96.8. It's selecting these 3 plates, which are different plates than the original cutting plan. You have your 30 of 30 pieces, but you have 7 of 12 and 2 of 9 on 2 other orders. And you also have no scrap and no remnants going back to inventory. So this would be your best financial result if you're willing to hold the inventory. And in this case, you're saving $3,534 from your first plan, or 112.7 pounds from your second option. So that's how you can use AccuFit to get out of a bad result. Number 2, extend the planning window. The planning process using AccuFit usually starts with the planner defining the period of dates they want to plan for. If I plan for orders from 3/22 to the end of the month, 3/31, and I plan job number 2010, which is for 30 pieces that has a cut date of 3/23, AccuFit will plan that order with a score of 46.4 and select 33 matching pieces of inventory with an order population of 797 pieces. Now, what you can do is change the date. If you want to increase the quantity of orders, let's move it to April 30th. We'll move it ahead 30 days. And AccuFit will then look ahead on your backlog and demonstrate the quantity of orders that are due to the end of March and April. And in this case, it's not 797, but 3,200. So now you have 3,200 orders for AccuFit to look at. So when you put this on partial filler orders complete, your score will increase from 46.4 to 96.8. And the partial orders, job number 2477 and 2112, which were outside the range, have now been included and are nested in the material that is required to produce job number 2010 for 30 pieces. And so that's how you can increase your yield score, by expanding the quantity of orders by pushing the planning window out. Number 3, combine LTA releases. Let's say you're planning job number 22224 for 15 pieces, and your score is resulting with a score of 84.8, and AccuFit goes out and plans that order, looks at your inventory. There's 60 matching pieces of plate out there that match. When you look at the score, there's still 45 pounds of expected scrap resulting from the remnants, this piece of remnant that will likely be used but not consumed at a high percentage. So AccuFit does a calculation for the expected loss based on historical usage when you're using non-full dimensional material. So another approach is to, if you have an LTA order, if this is a repeat order every month, you can double up the quantity from 15 to 30 and produce not just this current period's requirement from the customer, but the future period, and see if you get a better yield. And sure enough, we went from 84 to 97.5. And the nesting, when you match up the correct pieces of plate to the quantity of 30, you have more options, so your yields improve. There you go. Three plates, very good high material utilization, no remnants, no scrap. So that's another approach. And you can use multiples. You can go from 15 to 30 to 45 to 60 if you're willing to produce those orders or commit the material to those orders earlier. Number 4, increase minimum planned score target. One of the great features of AccuFit is a scoring system. If you're planning a job, let's pick 2010, and you're getting an unfavorable result, AccuFit is designed as an early warning notice to quantify the amount of the unfavorable financial result. And the financial result is a determination based on the amount of scrap that's generated based on the amount of yield and the kerf loss plus the labor required to move the material back and forth between inventory and the saws. So it's a good indication when you compare one order versus another. Now, the purpose of this tutorial is to focus on the minimum score that your company would establish with your planning group, which would avoid scores below a certain threshold, like 80 or 85 or 90, wherever you decide your tolerance level is for the amount of unfavorable financial result. So the recommendation is to establish a minimum allowable score before the cutting plan is issued to production. Number 5, change customer delivery date. Option for AccuFit to avoid a low score, let's plan job number 2212, is this order is for 24 pieces of plate material, 11 and an eighth by 47.875. And let's say you get a score of only 11.4, meaning there's, even though there's 45 pieces of plate that match the requirement, there's not a good result because the remnant that's being left over has a very high exposure to being scrapped out. So AccuFit has made a determination that there's 344 pounds of scrap that is likely to result from this, is to examine the quantity and cut it in half from, in this case, 24 to 12, and see if that improves your score. And absolutely, if you only produce half that order, it's 98.5 score. On one plate, you accomplish all 12 pieces. And then later in the month, or when the next material delivery is made, you can finish the order for the remaining 12 pieces. And that's another great way to avoid taking a big scrap or remnant result. Number 6, use the 10% plus or minus on pounds ordered. When your company receives orders from customers that will allow for a range of material weight to be delivered rather than a specific quantity or dimension, as in this case, this customer order will allow a receipt of 3,945.6 pounds up to 4,241.5 pounds. This order, the natural inclination is that this order will be filled at the higher amount, and in this case, the score ends up being 91.8. On occasion, you'll be able to improve that result by changing and reducing from the maximum weight allowance. In this case, I'll show you an example, 4,150 pounds. If I lower the amount, it's going to lower the revenue amount, but it's going to increase the material yield, which is going to improve the margin on this job. So at 4,150, the score ends up being 93.2. So you just picked up almost 2 full points by selecting a lower weight, which changed the material selection from inventory to a higher yield result. Number 7, define the worst yield dimension ranges. Solutions 3D planning software includes inputs for the customer determining the difference between a remnant and a scrap piece of material based on its dimension and weight. Based on the potential usability of a remnant, at some point the dimension or the weight will result in a scrap transaction, and it's important that the input into the fields in AccuFit are accurately defined so that AccuFit can plan around the scrap designation. Number 8, change the kerf width. Feature in AccuFit is the kerf width setting for the blade width. On a bandsaw, the default many times is 1/4 inch, and in this case, we're planning a job number 2350. It's 1 3/4 inch plate, 32 pieces, 7.375 by 23.875, and the best score you can get on AccuFit, based on the inventory that's available, is 53.2, and you can see there's a lot of remnant and scrap that's generated from this plan, and there's also a lot of blade cutting and travel associated with producing this order. Another feature is if you're going to cut this on a laser cutter, the dimension or water jet would be half of that. So you can change the setting on the curve to be half and recalculate the cutting plan, and AccuFit may improve, in this case, drastic improvement to 99.2, and is able to accomplish this cutting plan because the kerf reduction and blade travel is much less. Number 9, review the cut lines from sonic inspection. If your titanium plate cut lines are determined by sonic inspection reports, verify that the cut line for the trim around the edges matches the actual sonic inspection reports. Maybe an opportunity to pull those lines in and improve your material utilization. Number 10, review the AccuFit Solutions reporting results. As your financial results using AccuFit, it's very important that the reporting module is engaged and being used to analyze the yield and scrap results. In AccuFit, if you tap onto the reports, AccuFit tracks all the statistics related to every order planned every day. The date range can be looked at and determined to be daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually. The planner's name will be described. The scores can be sorted by score. You can sort by scrap, by yield percentage, by scrap value, by weight, by kerf weight, by scrap weight. All of the data is here. There's 79 different categories of information that AccuFit provides for, and you can set the report up to report any or all of the 79 pieces of information you're looking for. So all the statistics are here for you to analyze the results. I would highly recommend that in order to maximize the result, that the planners and management review this report periodically, sort by scrap percentage, yield percentage, and scrap dollar value. And that will allow you to determine the causal reasons for the low yield and high scrap result. You can then be able to look at specific orders and drill down into those orders to determine why the planner ended up with a bad result and whether or not you have inventory stocking levels that need to be corrected. This report can also be used to validate your scrap on a periodic basis that's being reported through your financial system. AccuFit can be downloaded into Excel with a click of a button, and that data will then be able to be graphed and used for external reporting. And it's very, very fast. This information is updated on a real-time basis. Here's the Excel report. The 6 most common reasons for poor financial results coming from planning are remnant consumption as a priority over yield result, deficient inventory stocking levels to support the customer order, customer delivery urgency versus financial result priority, period end push regardless of result, too short a planning window, failure to nest multiple complete jobs, and failure to nest partial orders to achieve the highest material utilizations are all the common reasons why low scores resulted in high scrap and remnant activity occurred. The goal of AccuFit reporting is to expose the causal reasons for high scrap and low material utilization using the reports for continuous improvement.